Tell us what you learned about Haskins and his practice habits.
Yeah, it's a little surprising because there's a lot that he had done to kind of show these guys that he was the quarter, that he could be the quarterback, that he was making strides to be that person that they could count on to be a leader, and all the things that were talked about in the past with him and about most quarterbacks. And it just seems like from everything I can gather, talking to a lot of people, that this is just it kind of trailed off, and the preparation, kind of reverted back to last year when he wasn't putting as much time in as some of the other guys. And that was what I mean by the other guys. I mean Alex Smith and Kyle Allen, the other quarterbacks, and that became, I think, a point of frustration. It's always going to be a point of frustration with the coaching staff, but it becomes worse when you kind of make the same mistakes over again, and they were seeing that in the games. And I think this was sort of building for at least a couple of weeks.
How many? So this, I love this. This is so fascinating.
You love the drama, don't you?
Well,
Who doesn't love drama?
When you're going to lose, let's at least have drama. All right, so Les, we had heard these kind of rumblings before, like you said, right? And then they said it cleared up, and then he really showed something. And then the offseason, we all saw how hard he was working and taking it seriously and everything. How many guys came to you? I don't want you to divulge your sources, but how many players, how many coaches, how many people said this to you?
There were a few. I don't want to get into all of that, but it wasn't just me. I mean, one of my colleagues, Tim Fourier, had a little bit of reporting too on this, from the player side. It surprised me because I felt like I started to hear about it very quickly recently, but I feel like the tone of everything changed after the Cleveland game. It wasn't really until this week that even before this move was made, that I really kind of understood how much the Cleveland game kind of stuck with everybody, because that was a game they could have won. And I think that's where the frustration with Haskins really started.
Or did they volunteer it to you?
Oh, I asked, but I wasn't asking necessarily about this when I started asking. I was just kind of asking some stuff and, just about general things. And, I started to hear some stuff early this week, there's some worry there. So I think that would be the best way to describe it.
Les, what sort of blowback, if any, have you gotten from either Haskins, his family, his camp, his agent? Has any of that come back after this article was published?
There's public backlash. I mean, I reached out to a couple people and had a bit of a conversation with one person who talks to Haskins. I think a lot of these issues kind of have lingered for a while. And everyone knows. I think it's more of a fact of what can everyone do to because people like him. I mean, he's a very likable guy. I mean, he's very talented. I think he's very bright. He picks up offenses very quickly. I think it's sort of frustrating for everyone to figure out how do we get him to a point where he's doing what he needs to do at this level. And I think a lot of people go back to the fact he just didn't have enough time as a starter in college. It was in a situation that maybe was a little more protected than other places. In some way, I think Rivera came into this looking at what he had done with Cam Newton in Carolina, and thought, well, it could be something very similar here. Newton only played 1 year as a starter, in Division I, but he also had won a national title in junior college. There were a lot of things Cam Newton had been through that Dwayne Haskins hadn't, and I think everyone's trying to figure out how do we get Dwayne Haskins to have the experiences and the understanding of what it's going to take to be a quarterback here.